witches.
Hi, hello, and welcome back. Here, I'll bring my fake Stanley out too.
Mine is a simple modern,
Mine is a
not a fake
juggy.
Stanley.
Mine's a juggy. Doesn't
Mine's
have a
better
name.
than a Stanley.
I've heard that Simply Modern keeps the drink colder.
Did you see that TikTok of the girl whose car literally caught on fire? And then she reaches in and gets her Stanley out, and she's like, or it's a simple modern, it's not a Stanley. She's like, there's still ice. And the cup is literally like scorched, and there's still ice in her fucking cup.
That should be their fucking promo video. Like, that, you should pay
That
for
girl
the
for her
free
video.
publicity. Holy shit.
Honestly.
That's amazing. Okay. Anyways,
Yeah, that has nothing to do with what today's episode is about.
right?
We're back to
Um,
folklore.
So today we're gonna finish up the last realm of the Norse mythology, and then we're gonna talk about uh, the founding father.
The Allfather.
I actually have like stickers that says like there's no Nazis in Valhalla, and it's like he's called the All Father, not the Some Father.
Oh my god.
Two crafty ravens, y'all. I think they got an online thing too.
I fucking love it.
I went to a pagan festival a couple of years ago and I saw that and I was like, so true. Anyways, okay. Let me get my shit where it needs to go.
So we're gonna start with Asgard. Emily's gonna talk about Asgard. The last realm of Yggdrasil.
Yeah. Okay. So
I have to let out my old man. He has to pee. You can start talking though. Kemper, if he stays in my room, like he has to pee like every 30 seconds, I swear to God. Come on.
like, Mom, I'm gonna shit myself.
Get out.
Okay. So I'm gonna start off with like where Asgard is located, a kind of general like description of what it is, and then I'm going to talk about a couple of not necessarily like I don't want to say myths, but
Like
like
stories?
stories. Yeah, I guess stories. So Asgard in the Norse mythology is essentially the like the home of the gods, specifically the Aesir gods, but like a lot of other gods go here and there and everywhere. So the only way to access Asgard, and uh was possibly only by crossing the bridge by Bifrost, which is like in like Marvel Cinematic Universe, you can actually see like Asgard off in the distance, and then like where Heimdall like would sit with his like key or knife or whatever knife sword or whatever. There's a huge bridge, and it's like rainbow. That's the Bifrost Bridge. Say that 5 times fast, Jesus. um, and so Asgard is one of the 9 realms, but Asgard is actually divided into 12 or more realms. It's kind of back and forth with how many realms they have. But each principal god has its own luxurious mansion of gold or silver within these realms. So the most important palace of them all was Valhalla. And I have 2 sources that say different things about Valhalla, and I'm not going to like get into it. I'm just going to kind of give the general idea on it. But this one source says that Valhalla was the home of Odin. That's where he lived with his like warriors and to prepare for Ragnarok. And Odin was the chief of the gods, so he's like Zeus in a way. Asgard again is the home of the Aesir. Their Aesir is like the race of the warrior gods, is what they are. So they're located at the highest level of the Norse universe, so like at the very top. So like if you're looking at like a heaven or hell kind of ordeal, like they're up where heaven is. Which is so weird how like Christianity has like a heaven, middle, hell, and then like purgatory in between everything. And then you have like this realm and that's the same, and then like Greek has the same, and it's like these have been around for so fucking long compared to Christianity, like
Yeah.
seriously. But anyways, uh so Asgard is surrounded by a huge wall of closely fitted stone blocks. And there's kind of a story about these walls. So they were built by Blast or Hrimthurs, um, who I guess I don't know what kind of god he was or who he was or whatever. Like a lot of it doesn't say. Specifically, he just wanted payment for building the wall. He just wanted Freya's hand in marriage, and he wanted the sun and the moon. Those are the two things he wanted. And I wonder too, because I mean, we haven't really got into like creation, or we have gotten to creation, but like more into it. But like the sun and the moon, weren't they the wolves?
Yeah. Well, the
So
wolves were
like
chasing the sun and the moon.
yeah, so like I wonder if he wanted the sun and the moon or if he wanted the wolves because they were, you know, I don't know,
Yeah.
symbolic. But anyway, so that's what he wanted for payment for completing the wall. Odin agreed to this, and I'm like, Odin, didn't you marry Freya, or like you had a child with
Mm,
her? So, but like, weren't you guys? I don't know. Anyways, Odin agreed to the demand as long as the walls were provided and completed within 6 months. So Hrimthurs had a magic horse named Svardafari, who helped him with this work. And to Odin's surprise and Freya's horror, on top of the other god's horror, with but a few days left of the 3 month or the 6 month thing, he was nearly finished. So Loki, I want to do his episode whenever we get to it.
okay.
Loki, the trickster, um, turned himself into a mare and beguiled the stallion Savardafari away from his position at doing the job. The job was not completed in time and no payment was given. However, he did complete the task. He just didn't get what he wanted.
Hmm.
Darn. Damn trickster. Anyway, so and here's where kind of it like is a little weird based on this thing because we've seen the source at least we've seen pictures of like Yggdrasil where Asgard is at the top, and Alfheim and Vanaheim are kind of near there but not at the top, but also like near the line of Asgard you'll find like Alfheim and Vanaheim as well as again Valhalla. So Valhalla I don't think is like, I think it's a realm, but I think it's specifically the
It's
name of,
in Asgard, though.
yeah, it's like specifically I think they call Valhalla like the hall. I think that's the
Yeah.
name of like the hall of heroes basically. um so within Asgard is Valhalla. So like that special place that everyone wants to go to, it's gonna basically they're trying to get to Asgard. But it's an immense hall, and that's where all the warriors slain in battle go to wait the final conflict. Um, and then in the middle of Asgard lies the plain of Ida, where the Aesir meet to decide important issues. Um, there, the gods will come together in the Hall of Gladsheim and the goddess in the Hall of Vingolf, which in my other source, there's a little bit more information on that. And apparently, the gods also met daily at the Well of Erd, which is beneath the Asgard root of the ash tree Yggdrasil. So, whatever. Oh, excuse me. Oh, okay. So, there's all of that. A couple of things I'm going to talk about is about the uh, it's a couple of stories, like small stories about Asgard, basically, and kind of like an idea about where Asgard came from. So in this poetic Eddic, um, there is a story of Tyr and Thor going on a journey from Asgard to Hymir's Hall, because they needed a cauldron that was large enough to brew beer for a specific feast for Aegir, I guess, and the gods. So, and I guess Aegir is um, the word for sea. Oh, it's a god. It's a god. They're not celebrating anything. They're literally celebrating Aegir the god. Um, so he's kind of like uh, Poseidon. He's like the god of the sea, basically. Um, and like so they're trying to get a huge cauldron, which is funny because again, in God of War, there's a task where you have to do something similar, and like you see them brewing this beer, like it's a thing when you're in Asgard. Oh, spoiler alert for anyone. Um, but so yeah, Thor and Tyr have a journey from Asgard to Hymir's Hall to obtain this giant cauldron for beer for everyone for this feast. Um, there's another talk about this, is when Thor is or Loki is attempting to convince Thor to dress up as Freya in order to get Mjolnir back by claiming that without his hammer to protect them, Jotnar would soon be arriving in Asgard. So like Loki was trying to convince Thor into doing like a trick. Um but so that's kind of like small little short stories about like what you could find in Asgard, or like things that happened while in Asgard. So there is uh, an interpretation. I guess there's an interpretation. There's like a prose interpretation for where Asgard actually truly is. So they, according to this person who like wrote this prose, he portrays the Aesir gods as people that traveled from the east to northern territories. According to this person, Asgard represented the town of Troy from Greek warriors, or before Greek warriors overtook it. So after the defeat, Trojans moved to northern Europe, where they became a dominant group due to their advanced technologies and culture, quote unquote. Eventually, other tribes began to perceive the Trojans and their leader, uh, Tror, Thor, as gods. Um, in Gylfaginning, which I think is the like one of the parts of the prose Edda, I think. Because it says prologue, and then like that's where it starts off with. So in this version of it, they're saying that the location of Troy was actually the original place of Asgard. Um, so in Gylfaginning, it is described how during the creation of the world, the gods made the earth and surrounded it with the sea. They made the sky from the skull of Ymir and settled the Jotnar on the shores of the earth. They set down the brow. You know what? If if they took the Jotnar, which is essentially ice giants, and they put it on the earth, does that mean Asgard or is like smaller people?
I
Because
don't know.
what if we're Jotnar? What if we're ice giants?
Well, we're not very icy.
We're not very giant either, but in our culture we're short. But what if what if we come
Right?
up against an Aesir and they're like 3 foot nothing?
I mean, maybe.
Yo, that's funny. Anyways, um, they set down the brows of Ymir, forming Midgard, and in the center of the world they built Asgard, which is also identified as Troy. So in this specific story about Asgard, they're actually claiming that Asgard's like the middle of everything and not Midgard in like typical iterations.
Yeah.
Um, so after Asgard was made, the gods then built a, I guess, a shrine or like a temple, a pagan temple, basically, in the center of everything, with a high seat for Odin and 12 seats for the other gods. It was described like gold on both on the inside and outside, and the best of all buildings in the world. They also built a temple, I guess, for the female gods, which is described as both a hall and an altar. They also built a forge with which they crafted objects from gold. Um, they don't talk a lot about Ragnarok. They talk about kind of what happened after Ragnarok. So, and you know what? What if Ragnarok and like the reason why Asgard's not there anymore and like the ending of it because of like the city Troy is because the Roman people came and destroyed it and took
Probably.
it over as their own. Like that. I mean, I
Fucking
like
Roman
this.
Empire.
Yeah, I like I like the idea that it's like they're making it more realistic, like
Yeah.
location wise, rather than like part like we're Midgard and then like there's other realms around us. I like that idea. Um, but let's see, where was I? After Ragnarok, I guess there were some gods still left over that survived. Vali, we don't know really much about, but he is a son of Odin and Jotun. And Balder. Balder is the son of Odin and Freya. They meet at um, one of the realms in it's like the meeting place, Ida. They meet at Ida to I guess look at what's going on and what's happened, um, and discuss matters. And in this area, they found golden chess pieces that the Aesir once owned. Um, let's see. Uh, in the same thing, the Gylfaginning, um, it talks about the central tree Yggdrasil. It's they talk about how it had like three roots that hold it up, and one of those go to the Aesir. So one of the roots belong to the Aesir, um, which it's been interpreted that that means that because it belongs to Aesir, that's where Asgard is. So in this is where it's like kind of weird
Ooh.
because
You know
yeah,
what I was just thinking? And this is kind of like off the wall, but like if you think about things that kind of look like a tree and like tree roots, I'm thinking of like a river. So like a river branching off. So like is there a river for Asgard and a river for Vanaheim and
yeah,
and this is actually on the earth and they call it a tree because the river looks like a tree,
and the other realms is
like other cities.
like yeah, like states, countries, all that kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And because it's so big, they don't realize that it's not other realms, it's countries basically. Um yeah, and so like in this one they also like it's just weird because according to this in the same text, the Gylfaginning, um Yggdrasil or not Yggdrasil, Asgard is built in the center, but then not built in the center, but actually at the root of the tree. Like
It's so funny how much especially like Greek mythology I feel like we know more of, but like the Norse we don't know as much. There's only like two
because a lot of it
really.
got destroyed.
Yeah. So like it contradicts because a lot of it came from word of mouth.
Yeah,
So
and I
like
feel like
some
with
of what you've
prose,
said when I talk about Odin, I'm going to contradict it. So like it's just funny.
see, yeah, and I feel like with prose, like prose edda, like edda Eddas or whatever, I feel
Yeah.
like they're literally like it's kind of like the Grimm fairy tales. Like it's literally a book of different fairy tale kind of things.
Yeah.
And because according to this one, like not the same person wrote this one that another person wrote. So like
Yeah.
the other couple of like sections was a completely different person than this one. So that's really cool. And then it also talks about another thing that I cannot pronounce because I have no idea. They talk instead of the root belonging to the Aesir, it talks about how the root instead reaches over the realm of men, and that the bridge Bifrost is told to span from the heavens to the earth and over it to the Aesir across each day to hold council beneath Yggdrasil. So, like, according to this part, it's they're saying that like the Bifrost bridge doesn't even belong to like anybody but like the meeting location, specifically at the realm, like at the base of the tree and Asgard. And it's not like in other forms it's showing like this is how you get to Asgard. And it's like, yes, but no. Like
But
that's um let's see. But yeah, other than that, it's basically it's just interpreted as a bridge to Asgard. Um and Gylfaginning is actually written by a like an Old Norse king called Gylfaga. And like Snorri what's his name? Snorri Sturluson is like he's also written stuff for it. So like I don't know, it's just kind of cool, like the differences that you see, and it's very and it even says like for discussion, it's like it's very vague and contradictory when viewed from a naturalistic standpoint because like one person places this like Asgard at the center of the world surrounded by this and then everything outside like surrounded by Midgard and then the Jotuns belong to Midgard, um, and then it's encircled by the sea, and then it also talks about how the god like Asgard's in the heavens and so like there's a lot of contradictory to everything about that, and I think that's really cool because there's a lot of debates that people can get into over like location, just not even what's in Asgard, just location of Asgard, um,
right.
and a lot of people like there's half and half scholars saying that like Asgard is actually like a real location, and the gods within it are just ancient people. So it's kind of like the like Atlantis, basically, like the
Right.
ancient people of Atlantis. So it's really cool, like the idea behind all of it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, essentially the general rule is Asgard is like the head of the heavens, and that's where all the Aesir gods live, including that's where Valhalla is and where Odin lives. Now let's talk about Odin.
Yeah. So Odin has about 700 names. um, the most common
Yes.
one is Odin. Um, he's also called the Allfather, which is actually, I mean, it's still an ancient name, but compared to the time that like Odin was worshipped or whatever, um, the name Allfather is actually relatively newer. There were a couple sources that said that in some of the original stories and some of the original like myths, Odin is not actually like the father of the gods or above any of the other gods. He's like equal, um, instead of being like almost like Zeus being the king of gods.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the Allfather is one of his names. There's also a Germanic translation that calls him Woden.
I've heard
He,
that, and I'm like, what?
yeah. He's called the father of men. He's called the raven god. Um, he's called Bjolverker, which is means evildoer, and Harbard, which is graybeard, and then tons and tons and tons of other names. I didn't even write down. I just wrote down some of them. Um, but he, much like the Greek gods, is the god of many, many things. He is the god of war and death. He is the god of poets, god of magic, and god of runes,
Isn't he
which
Father Christmas?
some stories say that, yes, but I didn't go that route with this.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
um,
I wouldn't either.
He's also the protector of heroes, which is
I'm
what
a hero.
Valhalla is about. Oh my gosh, I just keep yawning. My goodness. Okay. He is a tall old man with a flowing beard. He only has one eye. And he's usually depicted wearing a red cloak and a wide brim hat, which is where the Santa Claus comparisons come in. He only has one eye because he sacrificed the other one. Some people say for wisdom, but he actually sacrificed his eye so he could see everything that happened in the world.
What a
Um,
creep.
Honestly, though, like, yikes. He wolves and ravens were dedicated to him. He had two ravens, Hugin and Munin. It's probably Hugin and Munin because Norse, but they are representative of thought and memory, and they fly around the world and report back what they see. I'm imagining in my head that it's like like Assassin's Creed, where he like has the bird show him what the bird is seeing. You
Oh,
know what I'm talking
yeah.
about? Yeah.
Dude, that shit is so nice.
Um, that's what I'm imagining when I think of these ravens and Odin. But and then he also has Gary and Frecky, or Jerry and Frecky, which are his wolves. Also,
Yeri.
in
I think it's Yeri.
Yeri,
I think
okay,
J's are silent and not
it's a
silent, but
G.
oh, I don't know, but never mind.
Um, he also has a magical horse, and this horse actually is a child of Loki, ironically, but we'll get into that in a later episode. Um, it's called Sleipnir.
Yeah, I think you're
It
right.
it has 8 legs. Its teeth are inscribed with runes, and it has the ability to gallop through the air and over the sea. So it's just a magic fucking horse, and that's Odin's horse. Um, he lives in Valhalla, which you kind of already talked about. He actually learned the magical art of prophecy from Freya,
Oh,
and some of the other gods said that he was. I think I'm gonna talk about this more later, but that he was like not not a man because he was doing prophecy, and that's a woman thing. Like some super stupid shit was happening, but
I hear you. I just have to take this phone call, so give me a second.
it's fine. Um, I'll just keep talking. um, he also has this magical golden ring called Dropnir. That is for some reason important to the gods, but I didn't go too deep into that because I thought that that could be another episode, like relics of Norse mythology. So when he sits on his throne, which is called Klitschkalf, with Frigg, who is his wife, in the Hall of Valhalla, he can look out across the whole world. But he wanted to know everything and gain wisdom of things that are hidden from him, and that's why he sacrificed his eye like a fucking creep. Um, he sacrificed his eye in Mimir's well, and he threw himself on his spear, which is called Gungnir, in a kind of symbolic suicide. Um, and then he hanged himself from Yggdrasil for 9 days and 9 nights in order to gain knowledge of the world and be able to understand runes. So, a lot of self sacrificing to gain these powers. Um, and also through his sacrificial actions, he started seeing visions and receiving secret wisdom. So sacrificing his eye basically made him fucking Jesus, okay? Like
Are we
he was
gonna
able
start
to
doing like what would Odin do?
honestly though, he like he now is able to cure the sick, calm storms,
Oh,
turn
Jesus
his
Christos.
right, turn his enemies' weapons against themselves, make women fall in love, and render dangerous people harmless. And
Damn.
usually he could do all of this with just a look. So he's got one up on Jesus. Jesus had to touch you. Odin can do it with his eyes.
Can you just imagine he's like walking down the runway and he just goes,
Yeah, right? Like,
"You're a bitch. You're a bitch."
like, what the fuck? Um,
Anyone who loves Norse mythology and like solely listens to this playlist is gonna probably be pissed, but that's fine.
especially since I can't pronounce fucking anything. They're gonna be like, really? You could have looked up the pronunciations. And to that, I have to say, I could have. You're right. But I didn't.
You know
So
what
you're
you can
welcome.
do? You can comment on this video or comment on something on Instagram
Facebook or
or
Instagram
Facebook
or
and tell us
TikTok.
how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Because I can look
Anyway.
out the pronunciations and that doesn't mean they're right.
Right. Even half the time I look them up and Emily's like, that's not how it's pronounced on this. And I'm like, well, fuck me. Like,
And you want to know what? I haven't done anything other than play a god awful amount of games from that area. So like I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla and I've played God of War Valhalla. Like I've played two different realms or two different games in both realms. So that's all the information I have. So like I'm probably incorrect and that's fine.
well, and it's totally wild, like, how incorrect some of the pop culture things are. Like, the Marvel movies, not legit at all. Like, totally incorrect. Like, Loki is not Odin's son. That's his, like, brother ish, kind of. Um, and Hell or Hela, whatever, the sister in the Marvel movie is actually Loki's daughter. Like, it's a hot mess, and it's not. The Marvel movies are nothing like the actual mythology for the most part. Um, but anyway,
There's
Odin is
similarities, but
also,
that's it.
yeah, he's also a shapeshifter. Um, and literally, I copied verbatim what this source said because I was like, fucking really? It says Odin was also a shapeshifter, meaning that he could change shape. I don't know what kind of dumbasses are reading your shit, but if they don't know that shapeshifter means he can change shape, then they should probably find a different source, like a kindergarten book, okay? Cause the fuck? Anyway, he could fall into a trance and send out his soul, which would allow him to transform into another person or animal. And while his body was in that trance, he could travel as a bird or a fish or a snake and like travel to all these different far off places. He is, oh, here it is. He's portrayed as a charming man who enjoys drinking mead and wine and, being with his women. But he was accused of unmanly behavior when he beat the drum, quote, beat the drum and practiced prophecy, which is something that was mostly attributed to women at the time. Um, so the fact that he was both a seer and a man was like disgusting to some people. But you know what? Fuck those
I
guys.
here's the thing. I would like to be the bigger person and be like, "Oh, he wanted it for knowledge." You know what's funny? Oh, you're gonna play the game. I just know you are, but you kind of have an idea about what could happen. Um, there's in the game instead of like he can see, but he can also like he did it so he could see the future or
Yeah.
not see the future to like get that knowledge. So like he can, but not with that eye. Like he's got his raven buddies.
Yeah.
Like so if you see a raven, it's Odin watching you. But it's to see like Ragnarok and how to like prevent it because he's like a conspiracy theorist kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's so funny the like seer thing. Like they chose to do it because he's trying to like survive Ragnarok. And in real life, he's just like,
Spoiler alert. He doesn't.
what's in what's in your house? Do you see what's over there? My raven's here to look.
Yeah, he's just a fucking creep. Oh my gosh.
I
So
see
then
what you did there.
the next section I did like his family tree kind of.
Oh,
Um
well, at least it's not a. Zeus's family tree.
Well, okay, but different sources say different things. A lot of sources say that he only had two sons and then go on to contradict themselves and say that he had like 7 or 8 sons. So in some sources they said that he was married to Frigg and they had Baldur or Baldur.
Balder, I think.
Um and that he had with the giantess Jord, he had Thor. Now, that was one option. But more sources said, and most of the sources that said that contradict themselves and say this. So he was married to Frigg, who's the goddess of prophecy and marriage, but they had multiple sons. They had Balder, who is the god of light and purity, Hoder, who is the god of darkness, and Hermod, who is the messenger of the god. So he's basically Hermes, and it even is Hermod, like Hermes, like come on. Okay. Anyway, then he also had liaisons with some other um, beings, one being the giantess Fjorgyn, and that is who he had Thor with, who is the god of thunder and strength. Um, and then with the goddess Jord, he had Meili, and then with a mortal woman named Rinder, he had Valley. Um, so that's one thing. Um, his two most well-known children were Thor, um, who then married Sif and had a daughter. Um, had a daughter named Thrud. And then he also Thrud. Then he also had a union with the giantess Jarnsaxa.
That's on
Yarnsaxa?
you. That's on
Yarnsaxa?
you.
And his um, sons from that were Modi and Magni, and they're the gods of courage and strength, respectively. Um, Balder was like well known for his beauty and goodness, and his wife's name was Nana, and they had a son as well named Forseti, who was the god of justice.
I feel like Forseti is also like something that you can find in like Italian things.
Right? It
And
sounds like,
isn't Troy?
yeah, Roman or Italian, yeah. Mm, mm.
Uh-uh.
Um, and then he had uh extended family. He had two brothers, Vili and Vey. Um, and somehow, oh yeah, that's right. Loki is his nephew because Vili and Vey both had a union with the giantess, and so they are both the fathers of Loki. Um, which is interesting. And then all of Loki's children were monstrous.
Yes.
Like Fenrir was the wolf. Jormungandr was the Midgard serpent. Hel is the goddess of the dead. And Sleipnir was Odin's horse. They're all like monsters. And then the last little bit that I have, because I didn't go into pop culture because there is too much pop culture with Odin in it, and I just didn't have the patience for it. So the last little section I had was Odin in Ragnarok. So during Ragnarok, Odin already knows this because of his sacrifice and there will be an ominous horn blast, and that will be Heimdall who is blowing the Gjallar horn, which announces the start of Ragnarok. What the fuck? Blah, 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 blah. Um, and so he's going to consult the Well of Mimir, for council. They're going to decide to go to battle, even though they know what all the prophecies say will happen. Um, and they go ahead and go into battle anyway. Odin fights Fenrir. Um, and by his side, fighting Fenrir, are um, his warriors that have been in Valhalla, that have been training for this moment. Um, they fight super valiantly, but it's not enough. They all get eaten by Fenrir. Um, then one of his sons, um, like, fucking freaks out because he sees this happen. Um, and he has this special shoe on his foot that is made from all of the scraps of leather that human shoemakers have ever thrown away. And this shoe can hold open Fenrir's mouth. And while his mouth is held open, um, he stabs the wolf through the throat and kills him in revenge. So that is Odin's. I know it's still chaos down here, being needy. No, come here. You wanted
Mom,
attention.
I want to see my aunt.
I think he wants me to open the door, but he's being a shithead.
Yeah, he
But
wants to
yeah,
see you.
that is Odin's kind of anticlimactic end. Come here. Come here. Come say hi to the podcast. Come
Well,
say hi
that's
to
what
the
happens when
people.
you're a dick. So, hi, handsome.
Here he is.
It's a baby. He's like, thanks, Mom.
Hi.
What a baby. He's so
You are a
cute.
baby.
Well, that's all, folks. Until next time.
Bye.